Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and in an unsurprising turn of events, this is Ask a Herbert Erpaderp with me, Herbert Erpaderp. This fortnight's background video is, if you can't tell by now, mice. I bought some popsicle sticks the other day and felt the urge to create something for my gaggle of female mice to climb on, so you can look at these cute critters while I speak. I am also going to upload a version of this video without my jibber jabber or questions popping up for those that just want to watch mice being cute. Before getting to the questions, I'm going to ramble a little. You will probably have noticed in recent videos a couple of attempts to use the new end card feature that YouTube has recently rolled out. You've probably seen it on other channels too. The feature didn't work very nicely with my old end card style that I used to render into my videos, so I've made a new one that you'll have seen on Monday's video and this one too. I want to know what people think of them. Are you indifferent? I think that will probably be the most common reaction. Personally, I think the end cards are a really good idea, partly because it's easier to set up than adding annotations, and it works for mobile users too, while annotations don't. And I quite like that you can have it automatically link to the most recent upload, or let it choose the most suitable video for the viewer, which I think is kind of interesting. Of course, there are problems. It would be nice if the links to the videos showed actual moving video rather than just the thumbnail, and it would be even nicer if there was better control over the sizing and position of those elements. It would also be nice to be able to add them in the middle of a video so that I could make clickable on-screen links for when I reference another video, rather than just linking it in the description. Also, in my opinion, it would just be plain sensible to have the subscribe element actually had an image that mentioned subscribing in some way. I'm sure most of you don't really care, but I know some of you also have YouTube channels. What do you think about the new end cards? Let me know in the comments. In other news, the other day this package arrived. These are model railway kits, and I'll be building these over the coming days and then painting them up. These are a gift for my sister's son, who we are also building a model railway for. Otherwise, he would have nowhere to run these wagons and that would be silly. I will definitely be sharing videos about these kits and the model railway. You will see the kit builds pretty soon and the painting sometime after. I don't plan to paint these in an especially complicated way. They're pretty simple goods wagons, but they should still be interesting enough. I would like to know how much interest there is in model railway stuff. I mean, I'm still going to do it even if there's no interest, but let me know what you think, especially if you have any experience building these Dapol kits. I know they're made from some pretty old tooling, over 50 years old, and the packaging is very clear about that. That's probably why they are so cheap. They do look pretty good though, and they come with metal wheels. I remember all the cheapest and crappiest wagons had plastic wheels when I was a kid, so I guess that's nice. Enough rambling, let the question answering and comment responding times commence. JK says, "Boo! Happy Halloween! Sorry if I scared you, Herbert, winky face." Hello! I wasn't scared at all. Jacob says, "Happy Halloween. Didn't get to become what I wanted this year, but next year I want to try be a World War I British soldier." I guess Halloween is well and truly over now, but belated Happy Halloween to everyone who commented about it. Halloween isn't really a big thing here in Australia. That said, I'm not one of those bitter old no fun sorts that gets all annoyed about it. Costumes are fun. That said, going around to strangers' houses to get candy sounds like a bit of a silly idea. At least to me. Good luck for your costume next year. Time Waster Digital says, "Is that your real name? If it is, I will sub." Yes, it might be. Haha. On last fortnight's Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, Top Bunk Productions says the hermit crabs are adorable, which they definitely are. Anyway, your opinion on model ships reminded me of the time when my non-modeler brother once tried to force me into making model jet fighters. He had good intentions, but I stick to World War II tanks. And about the Katyusha, it seems that most photographs of it show it mounted on a Studebaker. Maybe Rubicon was right all along. I'd still want a Gaz truck though. I do have an interest in ships, like tanks though, primarily World War II era ships. They just don't excite me as much as tanks do. I totally get what you mean with the jet fighters. I guess as good as their intentions might be, some people think a model kit is a model kit, and if you like building tanks, then you must also like to build, I don't know, Gundams? But if you're not building things you're interested in, it becomes a chore, when it's meant to be fun. I didn't mean to say that Rubicon's decision to release the Katyusha kit on a Studebaker truck was wrong. and I do believe it was more commonly on that truck. I just think the Gaz truck is more iconic, not so much as the carrier for the Katyusha launcher, but just as a general Soviet truck. At least that's the kind of truck I think of when somebody says World War II Soviet truck, and so that's the kind of truck I would want to use for my Soviet army. Somewhat related to talking about ship kits, Kankuro 2900 says, I would recommend the USS Arizona Revell kit as a starter ship build, and in many places it's quite cheap and in a large scale. And it goes together easily, and if you go slow it should turn out nice. Another is the PT-109 Revell kit. Both are great kits to start trying boats and ships. If I do see that USS Arizona next time I'm in the hobby shop, I might pick it up or at least check it out. That is of course depending on how much it costs. I recognise the name. I know that ship was destroyed at Pearl Harbor and it's a monument now, so it is definitely a historically significant ship to build. I am definitely more interested in warships than PT boats, so I probably won't pick up the PT-109. I have been resisting the urge to buy a bunch of kits online, so I haven't looked at the price of the Arizona model, but if the price is reasonable at the hobby shop, I can convince myself that I'm supporting local businesses. Haha! Go me! Mental Gymnastics Champion. LEGO World War II buff says, what is your thoughts on Jingles and Rita getting married? I was surprised, but in hindsight it was kind of obvious. Jingles is a lucky old bastard, that's what I think. Seriously though, good for them. I'm glad they're happy. I don't know them personally and I've never even communicated with Jingles, but they seem like nice enough people, so it's good. I was a little surprised myself, but then I'm not very perceptive of these kinds of things, so it wasn't even obvious to me. I do hope their wedding somehow involves tanks. Corwin Dziki Krull, I'm pretty sure I've slaughtered that name. Krull sounds like a Klingon name. I am Krull of the Klingon Empire. Sorry. Corwin says, you shouldn't spell Gaz because it's a Polish vehicle. And from me, what airbrush and compressor do you use? The compressor I have is a Badger TC910 Aspire Pro. I bought it for myself as a Christmas gift in 2014. At least I think it was 2014. It could be 2013. It's been really solid and reliable so far, and I've had no problems with it at all. It's got a 3-litre air tank, so the motor isn't running constantly, which is nice. It was fairly expensive though. I don't remember exactly how much, but it was over $200. Possibly over $300. That is Australian dollars though, so a couple of bottle caps US. I was previously using a larger compressor that I'd got from the hardware, the kind you would use in your garage, and it was super loud. Not exactly recommended for indoors, but it cost like $75. If you're looking for a compressor on the cheap and you can deal with the loudness, I would suggest something like that over a cheap hobby compressor. At the moment I have 2 airbrushes, an Iwata HP C+, and this other one, which I use most of the time, is from Runway 13, but I don't know what the actual name or model number of this airbrush is. I quite like it though, and it's been very reliable. Clearly it's well used and not very well cleaned on the outside, which kind of highlights the fact that I don't really use the Iwata quite as much. Pug says he agrees with the fact that you don't need an airbrush to be a good painter. If you want to see someone do great painting with only brushes, look up Quick Kits. He only uses brushes, but his models are still nice. But I have always been wondering, how old are you? Quick Kits is a good channel, and I would suggest everyone check him out, especially if you're interested in larger scale kits. He's quite good. And I'm 33 years old, so I'm pretty old and I'll probably be dead soon. Maybe not, but I find myself saying, back in my day, more and more. I could say that I'm 33 years young. Back in my day, we didn't say crap like that. Arrgh. Robzalot mentions Zvezda doing a Stern Tiger soon. I saw that and I'm super excited about it. Robzalot's question is, what's the best brush type or shape for doing dry brushing do you think? I use cheap pound shop ones as they get a serious bashing. The Agile Aardvark gave a pretty good response to this. I'm not going to read it all out because I'm lazy. Personally, I've never really had a specific preference for the shape of dry brushes, and I'm not sure that there is a best shape. I think it's a personal preference thing that differs between painters. I've got 2 that I use at the moment. The bigger one is more rounded. It was pointy at one stage, but it's had the crap kicked out of it over the years. The other one is a cheap dollar store brush that's had some of its bristles randomly hacked off. It doesn't really have much of a uniform shape. I know a lot of people do like to use flat brushes. I've found for me, inconsistent and random shapes work well for dry brushing for the most part. Using cheap brushes for dry brushing is rather sensible, same as using brushes that were once good but have become worn out or otherwise damaged, and buying a specific brush for dry brushing seems a little bit wasteful to me. Fog of War says, Bovington Tank Museum is well worth a visit. I got to command and drive a tank last time I was there. Have you been to the Australian Armour and Artillery Museum in Cairns? I'm going early next year, also worth a visit, so I hear. And the terrain tutor agrees about Bovington and adds that there's loads more stuff around that area. I was just a little bit excited about seeing Mel commenting on my video, so I just had to share that one. Coming all the way from Australia, I would definitely want to spend the time and explore around the area if I were to go to Bovington. It would be pretty silly to go all that way, only visit the museum and then leave. I'd want to see as much as I could. Also, I'm a little bit jealous of Fog of War's tank commanding and driving. That must have been amazing. I've not yet visited the museum in Cairns. It's a bit too far for me to just casually drive up there, but I guess it's not really that far in the grand scheme of things. Probably like an entire day driving, like 12 hours or something. I think I would be more likely to fly there. It looks like they have a really great collection there that seems to be growing quite a bit, and I will go sometime. It would at least be cheaper than a trip overseas. Something else a little bit closer that I've heard about is a place at Mount Tambourine. Not quite a museum, but there's a place where you can ride a tank. I believe it's a Centurion. You can ride one that doesn't have a turret and has been modified to carry passengers, or for a slightly higher cost you can ride one with a turret, or for an even higher cost, you can ride the one with the turret while it crushes cars. It does cost a fair bit of money though, I think it was $500 or $1,000. Sadly, that's a lot more than I can justify at the moment. Maybe that could be a Patreon goal. I would of course make a video about it. How could I not? Wahoo Warrior says, Herbert, I want to be in an Ask a Herbert Erpaderp video, but I cannot think of a good question to ask. So, what do you think is a good question to ask Herbert Erpaderp so I could make it on an episode of Ask Herbert Erpaderp? I thought this was an amusing enough question. I too have trouble thinking of questions to ask people. For me, I like questions that make me laugh or at least chuckle, or make me think or try to be creative to come up with answers. Examples of which I have none. Wahoo Warrior also adds, more seriously, I like the idea of you playing bolt action against yourself and making an entertaining video. I think that would be very cool. I did actually play that game by myself the other day. I was a little bit rushed and I experienced some technical difficulties, but I should still be able to make something of it. It'll take me some time to edit, but it's coming soon. I'm sure I made all manner of mistakes, but it was fun and I'll be doing it again soon. Come to think of it, that was a good question to ask. Apparently, Boon Gaming YT is holding his breath. Rip in peace, Boon Gaming YT. Rip in peace. And he needs more cookies from beyond the grave. Are you a zombie, Boon Gaming YT? Because if so, please don't bite me. I'll give you cookies. Lennart Hoek says, you should really check out the Henk of Holland website. If you want to know anything about 1/72nd and 1/76 scale tanks, you should go there. I always research my kits there first. He adds, great pronunciation by the way. You should pronounce Hoek like Hook, as in Captain Hook. Great video by the way, wasn't expecting me in it. Haha, nobody expects the Herbert Erpaderp or something like that. It sounded funnier in my head. Lennart Hook, is that right? It sounds like a mighty pirate name. I had a look at the Henk of Holland site and it looks like a good source of information. There is a lot to go through. The site does seem a little bit old school though. I couldn't see a search function, so it's a bit of effort to navigate, but it's not too bad. There are plenty of pictures and links to reviews, though not everything does have a review. It's definitely worth having a look at though. It's always good to have another place to do research, so thanks for sharing. And for anyone looking, you'll probably find it right away with Google, but the address for the site is henk.fox3000.com, just in case there's some confusion. The Exuberant English says, Hi Herb, this is actually a second account to Ruddles. What's your least favourite tank? Also, happy Halloween. He also adds Herbert crabs, which I wish I'd thought of earlier when putting up that video of the hermit crab changing shell. I could have made a wonderful joke of some kind. Or terrible. Yeah, probably terrible. Either way, I was amused. I kind of like the name Ruddles more because, well, I'm easily amused. What is my least favourite tank? It's kind of a hard question. I enjoy tanks and most of them are pretty cool. Obviously there's some designs that I can see have flaws, but they're still interesting. I guess I'm not a big fan of the more modern tanks like Abrams. Sure, it's an impressive killing machine, but it doesn't really have as much charm, at least in my opinion, as older tanks do. I do think Leopard 2 is kind of cool though. I guess the best answer I can give is I've always thought the Renault FTs were kind of ugly and weird looking. The Big Boy says, do you have any model of a spaceship beside the Enterprise? I've heard that they are a lot of fun to put together. Also, if you do not have any, which have you considered getting? The only model of the Enterprise I have is a pre-assembled and pre-painted one. In the past, I have built Deep Space Nine, not really a spaceship. I've also built a DS9 runabout. Unfortunately, I don't have those built models anymore. I do actually have an unbuilt Deep Space Nine kit that I will build one day. I often see models of the Space Shuttle and other rockets, and I have considered getting those quite frequently. They'd be cool to have. I think the question was more aimed at sci-fi ships though. I have considered getting pretty much every Starfleet ship at some point. I'd love a model of the Nebula class and the Excelsior class. The Defiant would be cool too. I know they exist, I've just never bought one. I've also, unsurprisingly, thought about getting Star Trek enemy ships. I would also love a model of Serenity from Firefly. There's a bunch of ships from Stargate that would be awesome to have too, and Star Wars. Pretty much if there's a spaceship in a sci-fi thing and I see it, I probably want it. The only problem is they can be big and sometimes hard to find. One day I'll have a small collection of Starfleet ships at least. On my Total Tank Simulator video, Boar Harms says, "Ooh, nice. I hope they add more tanks. I want to see an E100 crush some puny artillery pieces, or a Sturmtiger wiping out 10 tanks at once. I would also like to see a Sturmtiger, those things are ridiculous. I would like to see them have a correct KV-2 model at least. The KV model in the game is labelled as a KV-2. You'll be able to see me complain about that when I put the sandbox mode video up, assuming I've not done that already. I'd really like to see them add British tanks." Boon Gaming YT says, imagine they made a graphic improvement. Wait, are you still holding your breath? No, wait, you were a zombie, weren't you? Again, please don't bite me. It would obviously look cool if this game had super realistic graphics, but I don't think it really needs them. I guess I'm just not picky about graphics as long as the game is still fun. Maybe that's because I'm old. I guess it's a stylistic choice these days, but I remember the olden days. Back in my day! I remember the olden days when you had to imagine really hard that your square pixel on the screen was a spaceship or whatever. There was no choice. I don't have to imagine very hard with this game, even though the graphics are fairly simple. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I like fun gameplay over fancy graphics. But I am happy if I can have both. Robsalot says, heroic tree death at 9 minutes 15 seconds. Iron Cross with oak leaves awarded. Let us take a moment to remember all of the fallen tree heroes. They did not fall in vain. Rest in peace, you strong, sturdy, wooden heroes. I'm an idiot. The following comments and questions are from the video in which I painted my bolt-action universal carriers. Wahoo Warrior says, holy moly, these look fantastic. I need to invest in some paint and supplies. I'd love to get my models looking half this good. Thanks. I have seen your models and they're not bad at all, and your videos would suggest that you get a lot more done with your time than I do at least. Jose Luis or Louis says, you should make some stop-motion animations with your models. I have thought about doing that on the odd occasion, but then I think of how much time and work would be involved in making it look good, and I can't think of a good story to tell using the stop motion, so I haven't bothered with it yet. Maybe one day it would be interesting to do though. I just need to find a good motivation for it. Top Bunk Productions says, incredible carriers. They look like they've faced some serious off-roading. Why do I imagine a World War II version of the Fast and Furious? And I'll be sure to watch Fog of War's video on British markings. That'll come in handy when I eventually get to building my desert rats. It sure will be. Markings can be kind of confusing. I've been thinking about building some desert rats myself too, just for something different. I'm not a fan of the Fast and Furious movies, but if they were set in World War II, cruising around in universal carriers and tanks and stuff, I would absolutely watch the hell out of those movies. On my hermit crab changing shell video, Jacob said, "The weirdest yet most satisfying 1 minute of my life before school." It is oddly satisfying to watch, and a little bit weird, both good things. Boer Harms says, "It's really cool that you have managed to capture that on film. Very interesting to see. Surprisingly fitting music too." I was really surprised that I managed to capture that. I saw him there shuffling amongst the shells, set my phone up to record hoping to catch him changing shells, left it and captured what I captured. Pretty happy with it. I'll probably never be able to do that again. I literally spent minutes agonizing over the music. Minutes, I tell you. Minutes. Aries5342 says, "What scale was that crab?" These are all 1:1 scale RC models. Really convincing ones. I didn't paint them myself, I had to hire someone really good. It was not cheap. On my quick tips video about mixing paints, Bartman says, "Hey, have a look at tattoo ink mixers. Those are very cheap and very useful. Also, large tattoo cups are great. You will lose more paint on plastic shot glass wall that you really need. I think that's meant to say than you need. Also, if you use a tattoo paint mixer, you can mix directly in the airbrush cup. Have a look at my Instagram where I review those things." Your name is making me think of the Monster Factory episode where they make a Bart. Just like Bart. Tip to toe, that's a Bart. Or maybe that song that they had from The Simpsons where Bart's doing the Bartman. Ah, the 90s. Good times. Anyway, tattoo ink mixers look like they could be a neat idea, especially if you want to mix in the airbrush cup. Though to be fair, I've never really thought mixing paint was something that I needed to make easier with a device. I can definitely see how it would save on lost paint on cup walls. I've never really given it a lot of thought, but I probably do waste a fair bit of paint. It's never really cropped up as an issue though. I've never run out of a colour while painting because I lost too much during mixing. The reason I like to have my plastic shot glasses tilted to the side is to try and minimise paint wastage. I'm sure I could be more efficient, but I don't really see much value in being too tight with paint. I've got some colours that will probably dry out well before I could ever use the entire bottle, and I don't mind spending a couple of dollars now and then to replace frequently used colours. Jet Sherry says, "Great video, Herbert, but I must ask, where do you buy your kits from? Me being a fellow Australian myself." I did answer in text form so people who don't watch these videos can see it too. I have been kind of slack in writing out text answers. I'll try to fix that. Anyway, most of my wargaming models, except for Flames of War, come from the Combat Company. I've been buying from them for years, and they've always had great service. So any Aussies looking for somewhere to buy your models, I would recommend them. Though most of you probably already know about them. I also get models from Irresistible Force, usually if what I want isn't in stock or costs more at the Combat Company. Irresistible Force is relatively near where I live, though it's still close to an hour's drive, and they have a gaming room that I've never been to. And finally, War and Peace Games. I don't often buy from them, but sometimes they have things the other two stores don't. I've never had a problem with them, though they do seem to be a little bit more expensive than the first two stores. I will put a link to all of these stores in the video description. If I want Flames of War models, in the last few years I've just been buying them directly from their online store. The Combat Company doesn't stock them because of issues with the Australian distributor, and it just seems easier to order directly from Battlefront. Pate2, who is also from Brisbane, asked about hobby shops in the area. Most of the time if I buy a non-gaming model, I get it from a brick and mortar hobby shop. There are 3 in the area that I know of and go to with any kind of frequency. These are Hobby Rama, which is in Stafford, I think it's in Stafford, Hobby 1 in Mount Gravatt, and Vogler's in Ipswich. If anyone knows of a good hobby shop around Brisbane that I haven't mentioned, let me know. Of course, this is no help at all to anyone who isn't at least familiar with the Brisbane area. On Monday's video, in which I built a 15mm scale Zvezda Panzer III, the Agile Aardvark says, "Nice video," and as usual, the tracks are the biggest letdown on Zvezda kits. They could soon be running for their money though, since Battlefront started selling single tank sprues for their Flames of War tanks, which are about the same price, some even cheaper than the Zvezda alternative while looking that much better. He also says, "Guys, think about Patreon. The bonus videos are really worth it." And you know, unsurprisingly, I agree. The tracks are a little lacking in detail, but the road wheels look better than I was expecting. I guess it's kind of hard to get well-detailed tracks and road wheels in one piece. I know Battlefront does it. I'm looking at their Pershing model right now, and it has really well-detailed treads and wheels all in one piece. Personally, I can deal with the slightly less detailed tracks. It's a pretty common issue, I think. Of course, more detail is better. I really like that Battlefront started selling individual sprues. It makes it much easier to get the exact number of tanks you want to have. I'm pretty sure the Plastic Soldier Company still does that too. Also, I'm glad you enjoy the outtakes videos I've been making. And yes, please do think about Patreon. It'll help me get more cool models for videos, and I probably won't buy Hookers and Blow. Not much Hookers and Blow anyway. The Watcher left a rather long comment, so I'm not going to read the entirety of it, because I'm a little bit lazy. Some of the details really are surprisingly good. I was expecting the skirts to just be flat plastic rather than the mesh texture they have. Pretty nice surprise. You're probably right in thinking Zvezda maybe didn't bother changing the hull and tracks on their Panzer IIIG kit and reused the pieces on the Flampanzer. I would imagine it's quite hard deciding which details to include when designing a model like this, especially something like a Panzer III that changed so much in relatively small ways over the years. It doesn't make a lot of sense to design different toolings for each Panzer III variant when, for most people, each variant looks similar enough, especially when they are small-scale wargaming models. Reusing tooling and designs makes good economic sense. It also might be the references used by the person or people who designed the model. They might have a few different pictures of different variants of the Panzer III and decided they'd use these wheels, this hatch, that grille, all referenced from different images and plans and whatever else they use. I think a lot of people would be careful with their research, especially those designing the models. But not everyone is obsessed with those tiny details, and I would imagine it wouldn't be all that hard to make that kind of mistake when using old, maybe even unlabeled photos and reference material. Also, I would imagine Battlefront would at least include some options on their new plastic kits, especially cute little panzer eyes. Their recent plastic offerings have included what I would consider a reasonable number of options, so I don't think you need to worry too much, especially considering it was a prototype photo. You've got some pretty nice neat looking models there. It's 15mm scale stuff, yeah? The individual figures are kind of throwing me. I'm so used to seeing them on bases with 4 or 5 dudes. Looking really good though. What I'd like to know is, what are you using as the grass mat? Is it a blanket or one made specifically for wargaming? It's a nice shade of green. I always enjoy seeing other people's work, so if anyone wants to share pictures, don't be afraid to link them. And have a look at the Watcher's stuff. Also, the Watcher, be sure to link the stop motion when it's completed. Somewhat related to the Watcher's comments, Enos Anderson says, "I noticed that there is a smoke candle holder moulded on the rear. Properly, you should remove it. That model came after the smoke candle holder was removed." I have to agree with you on Zvezda. They got a bad reputation for some of the kits they used to offer which were reboxed from various sources. Their last kits are very good. I've always recommended them for good, inexpensive kits. I had no idea that the box thing on the rear of the hull was a smoke candle holder. As in the previous comment, it seems they've included a bunch of details from different variants of the Panzer III. It doesn't bother me at all, really, but then I'm not that concerned with extreme historical accuracy. It looks like a Panzer III, which is enough for me. And I don't think I'll cut that part off. It looks kind of interesting and it breaks up the whole rear a little bit. I had heard bad things about Zvezda in the past, which I guess is fair if they were just reboxing low-quality kits. It is a good sign that they're working to improve their quality, and I'm sure they will eventually get rid of that perception of low quality. I mean, I had a little bit of that perception, but not so much anymore. Boer Harms said, "I built my first Zvezda kit 2 weeks ago. The 1/72nd scale Pack 40. It looks great. The reason I got it was simple. It was only $2.99, and who can pass up a Pack 40 for $2.99, right? What I'm trying to say is that in my opinion, Zvezda make really good and really affordable kits. Nobody can pass up a Pack 40 for $2.99. Or at least I don't think I could. My only real issue with Zvezda is that for the most part they aren't that readily available. I don't see any of their kits listed in the online gaming model stores that I use. I do hope that changes though. I rather appreciate the availability of cheap models that aren't complete garbage. Rubsalot says, great vid, nice heads up on the tracks being fragile. To add weight to my 15mm plastic models for gaming, I bung in some very small nails and fill with PVA to stop them rattling. Just watch for small holes on the bottom where the glue can ooze out, like the flag hole on this kit. That's a pretty good idea. Personally, I've never been bothered by the lightweight plastic models tend to have, but I know a lot of people do like there to be some weight to them. And this Panzer III really does weigh next to nothing, so I can see why some might not like that. I'd imagine if you bought something purpose designed for weighting model tanks or even fishing sinkers, it would get rather expensive to add weight to all of your tanks. Cheap, readily available things like nails make for good weights. It's not quite the same thing, but I've got a jar of old ball bearings that I use as a weight when I need to weigh something down on my bench. It's always good to make use of random stuff that you have on hand. Just because it's a nail doesn't mean it always has to be used as a nail. Top Bunk Productions says, I personally think their T-34 OBR. I'm never sure how OBR should be said. I kind of want to say it as Ober. Anyway, he says the T-34 Ober 1940 is a good starting point too. But I'm happy the Flammenpanzer has piqued your interest in Zvezda. Sorry, Zvezda. Bonus fact, did you know that Zvezda is Russian for star? I had no idea. I know there is a module on the ISS named Zvezda, and the translation being star, I guess that kind of makes sense. I kind of already had an interest in Zvezda, which I'm not sure I'm saying right, but hey, half of the things I say are probably wrong anyway. The main problem is they're a bit less readily available than either Battlefront or Plastic Soldier Company models. Jacob says, looks nice, and mentions seeing a KV2 in 1/100 scale. Can you perhaps do a video on the derp tank? You are in luck. The KV2 is one of the kits I picked up. I just can't resist that derpy little beast. I just can't resist that derpy monster. I will do a video on it soon. Pug says, Hobbyrama? That means you live somewhere in Brisbane. Am I right? Anyway, I watched a walk around inside there. If I could somehow get there, I bet I wouldn't leave until the shop closes. My question is, are you planning on getting your GPU replaced so you can make some good quality gaming videos again? I'm pretty sure that I have mentioned that I'm from Brisbane a few times before. Hobbyrama is a pretty good shop. Unfortunately, it's the least convenient one for me to get to, but they've got a really good selection. Last time I tried to go there, they were shut. No late night shopping there, which is a bit unfortunate, but I think they might be the best place in town to go for model railway stuff, which, as mentioned earlier, I'll be needing. I'm not sure I ever made good quality gaming videos. However, yes, I do plan to get it replaced. I don't want to cheap out and just buy a crappy one, and doing that, even with the intent to upgrade later, just makes that upgrade take even longer to happen. It's pretty low on my list of priorities, to be honest. For example, I need to pay car registration next month, which is going to be over $400. And I do still need some other things for the PC, like more RAM and internal storage. Eventually though. Hopefully sooner than later. And that's about it for this fortnight's questions and comments and such. As always, if you have a question you would like me to answer on next fortnight's Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, or just a comment in general, leave them in the comments section below. This fortnight we have another new awesome person named Blitzwing1 supporting on Patreon. Thank you for your support, Blitzwing1, I really appreciate it. If you want to be awesome too, you can head over to Patreon and help support the channel. For as little as $1 a month, you can make a Herbert happy. And see my videos a little early, as well as some patron-only bonus content. To get there, go to patreon.com/HerbertErpaderp, or click the link in the description or the end card of this video, which may or may not be on screen now. If Patreon isn't your thing, that's okay. I hope you enjoy my videos anyway. If you do, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and click thumbs up and all of those other YouTubey things. I shall return soon, so until then, happy modelling and thanks for watching. Farewell.